Hello, my name is Sydney Mann. In this presentation, we will discuss personality profile in sport and exercise. The topics included will be the definition of personality, a few personality and trait theories, and we will look at the correlation between personality and sports. First and foremost, what is personality? According to the American Psychological Association, personality refers to individual differences in characteristic patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving. The study of personality focuses on two broad areas. One is understanding individual differences in particular personality characteristics such as sociability and irritability. The other is understanding how the various parts of a person come together as a whole. While there are many, the two personality theories we will discuss are Freud's theory and Martin's schematic view. Sigmund Freud believed that personality involves factors such as instinctual drives, which include food, sex, and aggression, unconscious processes, which are a person's thoughts, memories, and interests, as well as early childhood influences. According to Freud, our unconscious mind is the primary source of human behavior. Our feelings, motives, and decisions are powerfully influenced by our past experiences. These things are stored in the unconscious mind. Like an iceberg, the most important part of the mind is the part you cannot see. Development of one's personality occurs during the first 5 years of life. Personality, feelings, and psychological problems in adults can typically be traced back to this time in their life, where the individual's parents play a major role in this development. This leads us to Freud's tripartite theory of personality. He saw that personality was divided into three different parts: the ID, the ego, and the superego, which all develop at different stages and times in our lives. The ID is the primitive and instinctive component of personality. It consists of all the biological and inherited elements. It operates on the pleasure principle, which is the idea that every wishful impulse and desire should be satisfied immediately, regardless of the consequences. The ego is the decision-making component of personality. It operates on the reality principle, understanding realistic ways of satisfying the ID's demands, often compromising or postponing satisfaction to avoid negative consequences. It considers social realities and norms, etiquette and rules in deciding how to behave. The superego incorporates values and morals of society which are learned from parents and those around them, similar to a conscience, which can punish the ego through feelings of guilt. Parts of the unconscious mind, the ID, and the superego are in constant conflict with the conscious part of the mind, the ego. This conflict creates anxiety, which can be dealt with by the ego's use of defense mechanisms. The next personality theory to be discussed is Martin's schematic view. This theory is based on three levels that are related to one another. The first level is the psychological core. This level is described as the real you, the part of you that includes your attitude, your values, your beliefs, and your interests. Your responses are usually the same, even when placed in different environments. For example, you're faced with two different situations. One being you're taking an exam and you know many of your classmates are sharing answers. Second being you're on a sports team and notice a lot of your teammates are taking performance-enhancing drugs. However, you do not participate in either because your beliefs are stable and that you believe both instances are cheating. Second level of this theory is typical responses. This level is based upon the usual ways an individual will react to a situation. A typical response is learned from repeating the same response multiple times. For example, if a person has failed at a skill numerous times, they may start to believe that they'll never be able to do it, and their typical response would be not wanting to attempt or try the skill again. Third level is role-related behavior. This is the most changeable aspect of personality. In different situations, a person's behavior will change depending on the role to be taken on and how the person perceives the situation. For example, a person may take on the role of team captain. Their behavior will change to adapt to this situation. The captain needs to show leadership and confidence, whereas if the same player were on the reserve team, they'd instead show submission. A trait is a relatively stable characteristic that causes an individual to behave a certain way. This is one of the most prominent areas within personality psychology. Three trait theories we will discuss are Eysenck's personality theory, the five-factor model, and the personality type theory. Eysenck proposed a theory based on biological factors, stating that individuals inherit a type of nervous system that affects their ability to learn and adapt to the environment. He concluded that there were three major dimensions of personality, the first dimension being extroversion versus introversion. Extroverts can be described as sociable, carefree, optimistic, impulsive, they crave excitement and change, and they're more likely to take risk and seek thrill. Eysenck argues that this is because they inherit an under-aroused nervous system, so therefore they seek stimulation to compensate and restore their level of optimum stimulation. Whereas introverts can be described as quiet and reserved, they're already over-aroused and therefore they avoid stimulation. They plan their actions and control their emotions, and they tend to be serious, reliable, and pessimistic. Athletes who choose team sports tend to be more extroverted, whereas those who prefer individual sports are often introverted. The second dimension is neuroticism versus stability. A stable person's nervous system will generally be less reactive to stressful stimulations, remaining calm and level-headed. On the other hand, someone high in neuroticism will be prone to overreacting to stimuli and are quick to worry and become angry or fearful. These individuals are emotional and find it difficult to calm down once they are upset. Neurotic individuals have an autonomic nervous system that respond quickly to stress. The third dimension is psychoticism versus normality. With psychoticism, people tend to be cruel, aggressive, troublesome, they lack empathy, and are often a loner. This has been related to high levels of testosterone. The higher the testosterone, the higher level of psychoticism, where low levels related to more normal, balanced behavior. Robert McCrae and Paul Costa developed the five-factor model, which is commonly used in the research and study of psychology. This model describes personality in five broad factors. The factors include openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. They can easily be remembered by using the acronym OCEAN. The degree to which an athlete presents one of the traits outlined in the five-factor model can determine their sports performance. It is suggested that those competing at the international level are likely to display lower neuroticism and higher levels of conscientiousness. Personality also plays an important role in the types of goals people set. Goals are likely to be set to compensate for or complement the individual's personality. For example, say someone is low in extroversion. Their goal may be focused on improving that. It's important to consider and understand the individual's personality in order to understand why a certain goal has been set. Personality traits can be grouped into two headings, Type A and Type B. Type A lacks patience, has a strong urge for competition, and has a high desire to achieve goals. This type always rushes to complete activities. They're notorious for multitasking and has high levels of anxiety. These people are most likely to play sports like football and rugby. Type B is the opposite. They are more tolerant towards others and are more relaxed than Type A. They experience low levels of anxiety and have high levels of imagination and creativity. Successful sports people are more likely to be Type A and more extroverted. Athletes need a drive and desire that pushes them to win. To respond positively to arousal would mean that extroverts would thrive on the pressure of competition. In a study led by Angelina Sutton, they took 126,731 participants and studied their relationships between personality and their level of activity. With openness, they saw a positive correlation with sedentary behavior, such as watching movies or reading books. Individuals who score high in openness may be more likely to engage in a wide variety of activities, some of which are physically demanding, while others are more sedentary. Still, open individuals are more motivated by health and fitness goals and value the benefits of exercise, which link to healthier eating patterns. The physical activity and eating behavior associated with this trait does not, however, extend to actual body weight. With conscientiousness, they found individuals scoring high in this trait tend to be organized and disciplined, which extends to engagement in physical activity. Their motivations for physical activity tend to come from internal rather than external sources and center on concerns about being healthy rather than over their appearance or weight. Individuals who score low in conscientiousness battle more with barriers when it comes to exercising. They perceive themselves to be less in control over actually being able to do it. The result may be greater inactivity and sedentary behavior. Extroversion was consistently associated with a greater frequency of physical activity. Individuals who are extroverted may particularly enjoy the increase in positive emotions that occur post-physical activity. In contrast, those who score lower in extroversion may not find physical activity as rewarding and therefore may not be motivated to engage in it. Extroversion had a strong negative association with sedentary behavior. This association was consistent with other evidence that extroverts tend to sit fewer hours during the day than introverts. The generally high activity level and the need to seek out stimulation, which defines extroversion, may translate into a more active lifestyle that includes a variety of activities which may or may not be sedentary. Agreeableness was the only trait that was not related independently with physical inactivity, frequency of physical activity, or sedentary behavior. Individuals scoring high in neuroticism tend to engage in sedentary activities. Individuals prone to feeling negative emotions do not find physical activity to be enjoyable and tend to perceive more barriers when it comes to being active. Their motivations center on concerns about their appearance and feeling obligated and guilty if they do not exercise. Individuals who are higher in neuroticism tend to hold more avoidance-related goals when it comes to physical activity, with motivations to exercise only to avoid looking bad to others. The end result is a greater risk of physical inactivity. The results further suggest that individuals high in neuroticism tend to spend more time sitting, watching TV, and engaging in other behaviors that do not require much movement of the body. Now we will discuss other findings on how personality and sports and exercise relate. In 2015, Wilson and Dishman found that conscientiousness and extroversion are positively associated with physical activity, while neuroticism had a negative association. This effect appeared to be most pronounced with vigorous physical activities and less so with lower intensity activities. In 2006, Rhodes and Smith found that extroversion was positively associated with aerobic activity, while neuroticism was negatively associated with this form of activity. In a study led by Allison in 2012, it was found that, on average, the participants who scored higher on sensation seeking had lower levels of physiological arousal at baseline. However, all participants had similar levels of physiological arousal during skydiving. The authors concluded that this phenomenon might describe the mechanism by which the sensation-seeking trait drives individuals to engage in high-risk behaviors. Specifically, it is possible that individuals with strong sensation-seeking traits look for additional opportunities to reach their optimal arousal levels. In 2008, Llewellyn and Sanchez found that higher levels of sensation-seeking and impulsiveness were associated with a reduction in risk-taking behaviors in rock climbers. Specific personality traits, such as rash impulsiveness, may play a role in determining how much risk is taken within the physical activity that a person has chosen. To conclude this presentation, we define personality as individual differences in characteristic patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving. Throughout, we discussed a few personality theories, such as Freud's personality theory and Martin's schematic view, a few trait theories, such as Ising's personality theory, the five-factor model, and personality types, and we looked at the relationship between personality and sports and exercise. All in all, physical activity is a collection of behaviors that involve movement, all with different skill requirements and energy expenditure demands. Therefore, personality would conceivably link to certain physical activity behaviors more than others. It's important to remember that everyone is different. When dealing with athletes, or anyone for that matter, understanding their personality helps with communication, as well as promoting coping strategies for the physiological pressures that present within sports and individualized goals, which all aid in the improvement of their performance.